particularly on the occasion of Sri Shivaratri, we are to meditate upon Lord Shiva, that magnificent, enigmatic figure, so powerful, so peaceful, so angry, enigmatic. He is repeatedly stated to be non-different from Hari, Hara. Hari means Vishnu, Krishna. Hara means Lord Shiva. But at the same time, he's understood to be Vaishnavanang Yatha Shambhu, the greatest of all Vaishnavas. He's known as Parameshvara, which means the Supreme Controller. But the verdict of all Shastra is that ultimately Vishnu, Krishna, is the Supreme Controller. So enigmatic. He's the Supreme Controller within the sphere of the material world. He's given that, delegated that service by Vishnu. He's seen like that by those who need to see him like that, who are not on the level of understanding that even Shiva is a servant of Vishnu. He is beyond the modes of material nature. He's in transcendental position, yet he appears to be affected by the modes of material nature. Particularly, he's much involved with the mode of ignorance. He oversees destruction, which is a function of the mode of ignorance. He very kindly is Bhutanath, Bholanath. He oversees the ghostly living beings and the foolish people, just to give them some chance of eventual purification. So in that sense, he's most merciful. He's the Lord of the material energy. His wife is the one who is prayed to for giving all boons which she can do, because everything in the material energy is under her control. People pray to Lord Shiva for materialistic boons, but he himself sits under a tree. He doesn't even have a house to live in. So he's enigmatic in so many ways. The greatest devotee of Krishna, but he fights with Krishna. We find in Krishna Lila, in the case of Lord Shiva protecting Banasura, he's the most pious and pure devotee, but he gives boons to demons like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu, by which they torment the world. He's known as the greatest devotee, but he himself doesn't have direct entrance into the Rasa Lila, which is the circle dance of those who are certified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the topmost devotees. Ramya kachid upasana vrajavadhu vargena ya kalpita. The gopis of Vrindavan, they are certified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the topmost devotees. Lord Shiva, as Gopishva, is the protector of the Rasa Mandala. So many mysterious subjects. We're tiny little beings here. Who are we to understand all these topics? One seemingly extraordinary, yes, it's extraordinary statement Srila Prabhupada makes in his commentary on Bhagavad-gita, the famous Bhagavad-gita as it is, casts Lord Shiva as a non-devotee who cannot properly control his senses. This comes in the verse, Dhyato vishayan pungsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bijayate. In the translation, Srila Prabhupada gives the translation, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. In his purport on this verse, Srila Prabhupada makes what could be seen as denigrating remarks about Lord Shiva. Let's read it. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, the incarnation of Maya Devi similarly tried to allure him, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above-mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, Srila Prabhupada quoted the verse that a devotee who is enamored by the beauty and pastimes of Krishna is no longer enamored by the thought of sexual enjoyment, and indeed such a devotee spits at the thought. So Srila Prabhupada says, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. So what's going on here? Lord Shiva is being cast as a non-devotee who's unable to control his senses. He's compared to Haridas Thakur, who was tempted by the same Maya Devi in a different form. And Haridas Thakur not only passed the test, but he elevated Maya Devi to a higher platform. Maya Devi, who is the wife of Lord Shiva, had heard from Lord Shiva, received from Lord Shiva, the name of Lord Rama, which is the name, the Taraka Nam, which delivers one from material existence. But then she heard from Haridas Thakur the name of Krishna, which is the Parak Nam, which brings one across all levels of spiritual advancement to the level of love of Krishna. However powerful one may be in controlling the senses, Lord Shiva most powerful in controlling the senses, but he succumbed to the allurements of Parvati. Well, it's a long and nuanced discussion that is described by Kalidas in his play Kumara Sambhava, in which Kalidas praises Lord Shiva as being dhira, one who is not agitated by sexual provocation, because Kalidas describes, of course it's based on scriptural descriptions, Kalidas describes that Shiva was sitting in meditation, and the most beautiful woman in the whole material world, who is Parvati, who is the material energy herself, touched his genital, but he remained undisturbed. Therefore he is dhira, sober, unagitated by sensual attraction. It's a big story how the demigods wanted a commander to command their army, but Lord Shiva was withdrawn, Vishnu is withdrawn. Brahma, by nature, he's a Brahmana. He doesn't get involved in fighting. So they thought, well, maybe if Shiva had a son, and who can be his son? Well, his wife already incinerated herself, Sati, and so he doesn't have a wife. So he has to have a wife to have a son, but then he's just withdrawn from everything, and he's just meditating in one thing is out of frustration with the affairs of materialistic people, and another thing out of lamentation for the loss of his wife. But of course, Parvati is Sati, come again, and she is the eternal consort of Lord Shiva, although she may be for some time separated from him. So there needed to be some means to bring her together with him. And it's a long story. But Lord Shiva became agitated by Kamadev, who was, this verse from Gita, which we just read, talks about Kama. So Kama is personified as Kamadev, known in English as Cupid, the god of love, who inspires lusty feelings of kama, sensual desire, especially sexual desire, or the desire for love among living beings within this world. The whole world spins on love, which means on kama, desire. So Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, and Kamadev wanted to disturb him. And Lord Shiva, he didn't respond by attacking Kama or becoming overtly angry, but anyway, his anger burst out through his third eye, Shiva's famous third eye, and burned Kamadev, who then became Ananga. He continued to exist in the world. The world, the material world, won't go on without karma, without material desire. There's no meaning to the material world without that. But Kamadev became bodiless, unembodied. He became Ananga, not having a body. So here we have Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He is perfect in bhakti, but he is taking the role of a meditator. Why does he get angry? Why does he succumb to Kamadev? Ultimately, he did marry Parvati, and again, there's a whole purpose of the demigods, there's a whole purpose of running on the material world. Shiva and Shakti, they have to be, Shakti means Parvati, they have to be together for the proper functioning of the material world. So it's all by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, who's ultimately Vishnu. But it appears as if Lord Shiva has succumbed to Kamadev, to karma, even though he burned him away. Now, what is Lord Shiva doing in this meditation? He doesn't seem to be very auspicious. That's what Daksha complained about. That that's one of his complaints against Shiva, that Shiva's called auspicious, but everything about him seems to be inauspicious. He lives in the crematorium. He's covered with ashes from the crematorium. He associates with the ghosts and evil spirits who hang around in the crematorium. What's more inauspicious than that? Daksha was complaining. Lord Shiva, again, he takes that role for the uplift of the most fallen beings. And one of the functions he does is to oversee those who are on the path of impersonal liberation, or those who are on the path of spiritual uplift, those who have become interested in spiritual uplift, but who still maintain a sense of strong apathy toward Krishna. They want spiritual life, but they don't want Krishna. So Lord Shiva, for such persons, is the exemplar of the path of artificial repression for persons who are inclined to that path. And in playing that role, Lord Shiva also demonstrates his futility, as he also is seduced by the material energy. In this case, literally, because Parvati is the material energy personified. So he shows that you can't do it. It won't happen. If Lord Shiva, of course, we have to always remember that he is the greatest of great personalities operating within the material sphere. He demonstrates its futility by not being able to maintain artificial repression. Actually, for him, it's not artificial, but he shows like that. He's inwardly at the perfectional stage of meditation. Dhyana vasita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yoginaha. He sees within his heart always the Sankarshan, Rama, who he always meditates upon. But he appears to have lost it. From karma comes krodha. And when attacked by karma in person, Lord Shiva gave way to anger and incinerated him, thus indirectly being defeated by him, for anger arises from a profusion of karma. But when karma similarly attacked Krishna in his role as Nar-Narayan Rishi, they also show the path of austerity for people of this world. But when karma attacked Krishna, Nar-Narayan Rishi responded with sweet words and humiliated karma by demonstrating his own ability to create allurements far superior to those produced by karma. What are the allurements presented by karma? He showed to Narayan Rishi, he shows to everyone. His allurement is the form of a beautiful woman. Kamadev brought so many beautiful women from the heavenly planets to allure Narayan Rishi. Narayan Rishi said, "Oh, you like beautiful women? Okay, I'll give you some more. You can choose one." And Narayan Rishi produced from his own energy beautiful women far more beautiful than karma was able to show. Krishna himself is the original, Aprakrita Madan, the original spiritual Cupid. The varying responses to the allurements of karma by Shiva and Narayana are paralleled by the different classes of transcendentalists who are their respective followers. Non-devotee transcendentalists aim at impersonal realization. They tend to favor the worship of Shiva, whom they regard as the primordial meditative yogi. And like Shiva, or misunderstandingly imitating Shiva, they attempt to overcome karma by their own spiritual strength. But they don't have much less than he has, and their path is extremely difficult. By their own spirit, what they imagine to be their own spiritual strength, they try to overcome karma, the whole material energy. It's a very difficult path. Klesho digataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. Avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavad bhiravapyate. Krishna says the impersonal path of spiritual uplift. It's a very difficult path. But for devotees who take shelter of Krishna, they find in his beauty and his attractiveness and attraction far more attractive than that of the mundane karma, mundane desire. And like Narayan himself, the devotees of Narayan perceive the attack of karma, who is the most dangerous enemy in this world. Don't take him lightly. Krishna warns Arjuna. This is Nityavairi. He is the eternal enemy, the enemy of lust, is the conqueror of all conquerors. As Srila Prabhupada points out, that Caesar could conquer a vast empire, but he was conquered by the slight movement of the eyebrow of Cleopatra. This most dangerous and powerful enemy, the only one who could conquer the mind of the otherwise unconquerable Shiva. But devotees of Narayana, they find simply ludicrous. This materialistic desire, simply ludicrous. Shiva also demonstrated this by taking the role of being humiliated by Vishnu in Vishnu's extraordinary Mohini avatar. All the avatars of Vishnu are extraordinary, but this one is unique, the female form. Shiva was not humiliated. There's nothing that can humiliate him, because he knows I am subordinate to Vishnu. But he took that role. So this section of Bhagavad-gita, which is discussing, well, so much of Bhagavad-gita discusses the power of the misguided intelligence, the power of material desire to drag our consciousness down, this section of Bhagavad-gita is most relevant for transcendentalists who want to be liberated, because this karma, material desire, is our eternal enemy, nitya vairi, as long as we're in this material world. But this should be understood, and this is why Srila Prabhupada has made this comment here, which might appear to be denigrating to Lord Shiva, that transcendentalists who strive to be liberated by their own efforts misunderstand Shiva to be one of them, on the same path, doing the same kind of thing, when actually his yoga practice and his austerity is centered on meditation on Vishnu. Even the yogi who wants to control his mind, or the yogi who makes a strenuous effort to control his mind, should rather take help from Krishna in order to steady the mind. Shiva, yes, we can ask Shiva for help also, even to enter Vrindavan, especially the Rasa Leela, if we have such a high aspiration, which ultimately we may have, or we may desire to be a speck of dust in Vrindavan. But to go there also, we need the permission of Lord Shiva, so we can remember him, particularly on Shivaratri. Remember him as Vaishnavanang Yatha Shambhu, the greatest of Vaishnavas, and pray for his mercy that we may be released from the clutches of the material energy whom he oversees as his chaste and faithful wife. We may be released from those clutches. We may not be deluded by the impersonal philosophy which he comes to teach as Shankaracharya to delude the whole world. Please, Lord Shiva, you who oversee the mode of ignorance, help us to be released from that mode of ignorance, which always drags us down as we endeavor to go to the highest heights at the lotus feet of your worshipable Lord Vishnu. Again and again and again, we are dragged down by the mode of ignorance in the form of abominable thoughts, in the form of laziness, in the form of lack of motivation in devotional service, in the form of all weird ideas that have got nothing to do with devotional service, with doubts about devotional service. Lord Shiva, please help us to be released. Please, Lord Shiva, give us your blessings. Help me to be a proper servant of my spiritual master and of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.